Hey guys, so I'd love to give you an update on my VAERS report. I was contacted again today by VAERS via email stating that they had not received any of my documents, any of my doctor's names, any of the hospital names, and none of the information that I have given them, which we all know is wildly incorrect. So this being like the fourth time that this has happened, I decided to call them once again. Now, if you know about VAERS, which you should at this point, then you know that that's exactly what the CDC uses and relies on to like get reports on any type of V injury. Okay, so it's not just this V, it's on any V injury. But this is what they use. This is their system that they manage, they run, and they use. So I get them on the phone and they ask for my report number like 50 freaking times. Okay, whatever. I'm being dramatic thinking that that's a problem, right? They finally get somebody on the phone. Her dog's barking in the background. We all work from home, not a big deal. So I think whatever. They say they can't find my records, so they are going to call me back. And at this point, I just start like laughing and I'm like, okay, call me back then. So they stuck to their word and they did call me back. I believe this lady's name was Yvonne, something like that. We'll just call her Yvonne, just in case I got it wrong. She tells me a couple of things that I had not heard before. Number one, if you remember correctly, I updated you guys a month or so ago where they told me the hospital never actually reported it. That was VAERS who told me that. Today, I was told by Yvonne that the hospital did report it. Not only was I told that they reported it, I was told the employee's name and the date and the time and everything when they reported it. She was a nurse and she was told to report it by the doctor is what the report stated. And I was also concerned that my diagnosis was not in the report, but she told me that my Guillain-Barré, my pericarditis, my gastroparesis, my POTS syndrome, all of it was in the diagnosis. So that's a good thing, right? So then I get to the good stuff and I ask her, why am I continuously getting this, what seems like an automated email from you guys? And each time I do get the email, I think this was the fourth time, why is it a different person, like a different person collecting all my data? And why are you guys stating that you haven't received anything? Drum roll, please. She proceeds to tell me that in her entire department, in the VAERS database collecting report department, whatever she called it, there are only 50 employees. 50. 50. She told me that this is the process. They get the initial report. They start collecting all the data. They request data from us, which I've told you they did. They asked me for my medical records for 12 months prior to the V. So everything leading up to the V, I had to give all my doctor names, where I'd been, any conditions I had, hospitals I'd been seen at. And then they also wanted the dates of hospitalization, which for me, it was 4 different trips. I think it was like 18 days total. And so I had given all this to them. Once you give that to them, they collect it. They go through all of it. When they feel like they've got their pretty little package ready to go, they send it over to their nursing department, which has an equivalent amount of employees over there. The nurses then go through the package and they read to see if you were transferred by ambulance or if there's anything that could be missing in there. And if they feel like if it's missing something, they'll send it back to Yvonne's department and ask them to recollect, which is that automated response. Now, this process obviously happens multiple times because you only have 50 people working millions of reports. Millions of reports. And you have 50 people responsible for collecting this data. So she told me that only one of the hospitals was listed on my report, which is odd because then later on in the conversation, that employee's name that she read off to me was an Advent Health employee here in Carrollwood in Tampa, Florida. So they clearly had some of the data and they don't have it together. So I gave her all of the information once again. She thanked me and told me that they will not be updating me. They do not update people, but that I could expect another 6 to 12 months before it's looked at. She told me that my case is a priority case because of my diagnosis and that it's listed as high. So they don't list it as priority. I guess it's like low, medium, high. I don't know. She just told me mine was listed as high, which means it should be put at the front of the list and it should be looked at. And I am far from it. She said that the hospital, the one hospital they had listed, has not even responded with my medical records from them. So I, of course, told her I have 1,500 pages of records that I could give her, but she said it has to come from the hospital, understandably so. But my point in telling you all of this is that I had mine in March and May. My reports were done immediately. Not only was it done by me, but it was then reconfirmed by the hospital themselves. And we are still at a point where it's at Yvonne's department and hasn't even gone beyond there. Okay, and here's the best part. These are her words, not mine, so don't hate on me. She said that once the nursing department is done bouncing it back and forth and they feel like they've collected all of the data that they need to collect, they then put it in a pretty little package and they shoot it over to the CDC. Once the CDC receives it, they then put their own doctor, nurse, lawyers, everything on it. They do their own investigation. It is them who does the investigation. I was told today VAERS does not investigate whatsoever. It is the CDC who does all of it. Once the CDC does that, it is then used for their reporting, for their statistics, for their research, for their reporting back to, the government. So I am a minimum 6 to 12 months out from even being counted in those ticker marks. And you've got millions of reports coming in. And you really think that the numbers they're telling us on the TV and everywhere else, that they're not telling us, are accurate? I just felt that this was really important to talk about and to share with you guys because so many people are telling me they don't know if they should report it or they did report it and they haven't heard back. Take it from me, who was like, I was told I was hours away from possibly being put on a ventilator if the Guillain-Barré would have went any further. So my case was pretty serious and it still hasn't even been taken past Yvonne's department. I am nowhere close to being a tick mark on the freaking CDC and Dirty Fauci's information line. Like, I am not even looked at by them yet. So keep that in mind when you're talking to people. Keep that in mind when you're watching and reading that people like me are far from being counted yet. And I use the word yet because it will happen. It will happen somehow, some way. And the last thing that I want to tell you about this conversation and this phone call was that she made it clear to me that the diagnosis on the paperwork doesn't matter. They read through, this is just what she said, they read through all of the paperwork. So I told her, I said, I've seen the paperwork. I've got 1,500 pages just from the last hospital stay alone. And she said that it is the nursing department's job to read through every page and that they don't go off of a diagnosis. They go off of notes. I'm sorry if my stories are chopping up. I have been cut off by Instagram multiple times now and my phone keeps closing. So I have a feeling that this is going to be very shadow banned and a lot of you are not going to see it. So I think I'm going to add all of the pieces together and make a video out of it and post it. If you see the video, please share it so that people out there know they can report their injury. If you go to my main page and look under the highlight, report injury. Again, I changed my username. It's not Britt Galvin anymore. Now it's Mrs. BG's. My last name is Galvin. My husband goes by BGZ, so I just put Mrs. BG's. Yeah, I got clever, right? So I'm going to make it a video. Please share it. Help other people know that they can report it. They don't need to be scared and that that's the process. And we're relying on 50 people, 50, to do their job for our sake.